Hello, everybody. Welcome back to E20 Zone TV. I've got a special guest on today that I'm really honoured to have on. Because one man I do opinion, I do rate. I need someone calm and composed, and Brian is the guy from West Ham Fan TV. Brian, I really do appreciate it. I really do. How are you, mate?
Yeah, no, James, a pleasure, mate. Thanks for having me on. How am I? Do you know what? A good night's sleep has eased some of that pain, but it's I'm still hurting from yesterday, man. I really am.
Yeah, it was bad. It was bad yesterday. Let's go through it. Yesterday, explain to me where the self-destruction happened at West Ham yesterday.
I don't know if you can hear me. Like connections breaking up a little, James. I don't know if you can still hear me, but I think I heard you. I heard your question about yesterday. I think, look, you know me, James. I like to look at games and analyze them from a deeper perspective, and not only look at what we're doing as a home team, but also look at what the opposition are doing. And it was really difficult to do that yesterday. I think, look, we were bad. That goes without saying. And Arsenal were on their top level. They had like a purple patch of around 11 minutes where everything sort of went right for them. But I think we massively contributed to that based on a lack of discipline, a lack of a game plan. I think, look, if we look at the game, the first half, I would say around 18 minutes, I think we were in the game without really doing anything. I think our defensive shape as a team, rather than the defense itself, was all right. Like being at the game live, you could see the 5 versus the 3. But what Arsenal were doing, which was really clever, was Trossard was sort of dropping in that pocket, and then him and Havertz were sort of like swapping around, and they were moving around, and Souček just didn't know who to pick up. So once they got the momentum of their play in terms of possession, etc., we started to get overrun, and we were conceding a lot of corners, and it was a matter of when, not if. And I think once I saw we conceded that first goal, some heads dropped down, some heads in the team dropped down. And I haven't seen that for a long time. And I think for me personally, there was no real, there didn't seem to be a game plan. There didn't seem to be any sort of constructive strategy around patterns of play. Whenever we had the ball, we didn't know what to do with it. I don't know if you were brave enough to watch flipping Match of the Day 2, but the analysis on that was actually really good. It kind of it summed us up in a nutshell, not only for that game but this season. So in a sense of being in possession and then no one sort of looking at it, looking to go beyond the person on the ball. We're passing backwards, we're passing sideways. It kind of summed us up, and it happened obviously a lot yesterday, particularly on the left hand side, but also as well defense yesterday. We got a problem. We got problems everywhere else, the left hand side in the midfield and attack. We know that, but for me, what yesterday highlighted is how bad we are defending from dead ball situations, but also defending the back four not leading and giving the rest of the team confidence. Zuma was dead on his feet. The amount of times he did something, whether it be give the ball away or was a little bit behind play. I was looking at David Moyes and he was literally tearing his hair out. So I was not surprised when he got taken off. But it's bad because with Zuma especially, although I do rate Zuma as a defender. I think he the situation we have as a team is we almost need a complete rebuild, because individually some of the players we have all right, but then when you start putting them together, it's not complementing each other. Do you see what I mean? And it was just it just weren't good. Mate. The only players, sorry James, the only two players I can say that can actually hold their head up from that performance, and that's saying something, being after getting beaten like that. But the only two players I saw that gave heart throughout that game or for however long they were on, was Alvarez. Alvarez literally was trying to initiate stuff when he was on the ball. He was also getting frustrated, and that's what contributed to his yellow card. But Bowen as well, I actually felt sorry for Bowen because he was just up against two giants in Saliba and Gabriel. We're pumping long balls to him. He's just getting bullied off. He's getting held off. But he ran for 90 minutes plus and only touched the ball 7 times. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, I know. What you said about match of the day last night, so 100% agree. I put a tweet out last night. I thought it was brilliant analysis from Troy Deeney. The little clip he done of the West Ham, how passive we are. I agree. But yesterday, I don't know why, but I feel like West Ham are declining slowly and surely now. It's like we're crashing and burning into sort of nothing. Do you know what I'm saying? When we played Brighton on the 2nd of January, I was like, it's a point. I can accept that because we had a good Christmas period. Ever since that game, we have just gone down the pan. Literally gone right down the pan, and we don't look like doing anything. And the fear I have currently right now is I don't know what West Ham we're going to get from now to the end of the season. It's just going to be how it's going to be now. Like, we're just going to go out. And it just felt like yesterday we had 11 players on the pitch who never knew how to play football. Like, it's like they've never played football in their life. And I reckon we could have found 11 players in the crowd who could have done a better job. Like, literally done a better job of fighting for the shirt and the badge and everything, really. Where do we go from here, though, Brian? Now, because that's an heavy one. That is, to lose against Arsenal, London rival. That's hard to take.
Well, that's the thing, and I guess what I'm hoping for is that there was some serious conversations in that changing room yesterday. Do you know what I mean? When you're talking about leaders or people that wear, their heart on their sleeve when it comes to the club, I'm talking like nobles and people like that. I'm expecting those people to come in that dressing room and tell people about themselves. Do you know what I mean? And then kind of like look at it, because in terms of you saying about form, if you look at our form, obviously we haven't won in this calendar year. There's no wins in 2024. Form table, we're definitely we've got to be in the top 3 in terms of current form. No wins in 7. So I guess with the fixtures coming up, it's hard to see where fortunes will change. I think the Forest game is going to be really difficult, and Brentford, as we know, are one of our bogey teams. And I think we had a lot riding on us having our first 11 out. So, we're all talking about when Kudus comes back, and now we're talking about when Paquetá comes back. But the thing is, we're relying on those guys coming back. It is the problems we have is bigger than that. And I think since this January transfer window, what we now see is the club we've now suffered an imbalance, and I due to the players we've had to let go. I honestly, in my heart of hearts, I think there's a bigger picture there going on behind the scenes. I don't know if it's to do with sustainability and the FFP stuff, but I think there's a bigger reason why we've had to kind of let some players go, etc. But we really in a bit of a situation now where we've left ourselves light. And fortunately or unfortunately, it means that we're going to need to use our squad depth with our players, and we know that's something that the manager doesn't really tend to do. He's going to have to look at Cornet and Danny Ings and those kind of players. I said in our match reaction yesterday on West Ham Fan TV that the situation we're in now is you've got Ben Johnson, who has basically played a few good games, 2-3 good games in various positions, and he's almost contributed to the problem, ironically, because he's played himself into the team. So they're trying to crowbar him into the team and play him as a left winger. And as we saw off the analysis yesterday, he's not a left winger. So, he's not going to be bombing on down. It probably would have made more sense to swap them around and him dropping at left back with Emerson playing a bit further forward, just for that natural attacking thing. But I think, James, what we need to do is we basically need to regroup, because as bad as things are, and they're really bad, like really bad, our season could literally capitulate from this moment now, and we can forget about things like Europe, etc. if we go in the same trajectory. and that's the negative side. The positive side is if we manage to get a response from the team, especially in the next couple of games, it will allow us to hold on for something in terms of having something to play for. Because the aim for the team really, it should be challenging for the European places because of how we started the season. That should be like the aim to kind of re-qualify for Europe next season, which in all honesty is going to be such a tall order.
The only thing I will say with this is obviously you was there yesterday. The atmosphere, like there was no fans in the ground at the end of the game. Yeah, and that was sad to see when you're
Yeah.
seeing floods of fans coming out and walking away at half time. That just breaks people's heart. Like, I mean, that breaks my heart. I'll be honest. Like, because West Ham, well, when we're all together as a fan base, we ain't got a fan base. We've got an army. Like, there's an army of us, like all over the planet. When I see that yesterday, that was heartbreaking. How was it at full time yesterday for you?
Mate, full time was nuts because, as you said, the ground had emptied out. There wasn't like a lot of people there at all, even at half time. So when people were like leaving and stuff, I went down to kind of get a drink and stuff, and like I probably came back. I probably missed the first between 5 and 8 minutes of the second half, and the amount of people that were there as well that probably weren't going to go back was, there was loads of people there at full time. The atmosphere was just so sour. It was unbelievable. So many people just saying that they've had enough. I met a number of people that had come. Some people brought their kids for the first time yesterday to the game. We met these guys from Holland that come down. Met some people from Mexico, South Korea, come down for the game, big occasion, first time at the stadium. And yeah, that happened. So it was full time was mental. And when it came to sort of like people around the side doing, whether it's fan cams or just having a talk or whatever, because you got like the Arsenal mob around the other side as well doing their thing. So everyone's doing like their media content. But from a West Ham perspective, it was just so dire, and a lot of people were speechless. But there was a lot of bad tension there as well. Do you know what I mean? A lot of bad tension, a lot of people expressing their views. And some people were just like, you know what? It is where it is. We've had that coming. And I kind of get that. I kind of get that because the other side of the coin is with the performance we put out yesterday, it's very similar to the performances we've probably played in some of the recent games this year. You're looking at your Bristol Cities, you're looking at Sheffield United away. The performance itself wasn't dissimilar. The only difference I would say between, say, like this performance and maybe the Man United performance is that the Man United performance, we were given the ball, so we were in the ascendancy. We were able to kind of dictate the patterns of play, which we're not used to because that's actually not in the game plan. So we did look comfortable going forward in that game without really doing much. And I guess that's the only real difference. The performance itself of they're very similar to some of the games recently that we've lost or drawn this year. And you know what, James, if you look at some of the score lines, we've held quite a few big defeats this year.
I know.
In terms of like this season.
Yeah, it is. I'll
think
be
of
honest
the
with you.
Fulham game and a few others where
it is a worry, isn't it? Let's be honest. Like when you're sort of holding 5 at Fulham, 5 at Liverpool, 6 at home against Arsenal, 4 away at Villa. This is not like this is becoming a common occurrence, so to speak. Do you know what I'm saying? And as you say, and I was just letting you sort of land on everything because having someone there, and I spoke to someone the other week who's in Manchester watching West Ham. He said the atmosphere is mixed. People are flat. My people feel a bit stale with the situation at the minute. And hearing it sort of yesterday and everything, and I know people say about like we're 8th in the league and like this everything, but there comes a time where you got to look at this and see where it is actually going. Like, what is the future? No one can tell me really what the future is in a year's time. I could sit here in a year's time, do a video with you again, and we wouldn't know who the manager is. We don't know where the club is going. We don't know anything. That's the problem. And for me, my sort of anger is more towards the owner of the club rather than the manager of the club, because the manager at the club can be replaced. Yeah, if you can take the manager out and put a new manager in, but will the structure be the same under Sullivan? For me personally, it will be. Like, and that's the problem. He doesn't work in that sort of aspect. What's your thoughts on Moyes, Brian?
Yeah, so my thoughts on Moyes, I get asked this a lot, and it's one of those ones where basically I'm old enough to know and have seen a lot of the past in terms of what we've come from, and I'm not one of those people or fans who, you know, after several good seasons then think there's a sense of entitlement, because from the outside looking in with other fan bases, that's what they're kind of thinking the typical West Ham fan is, which we're not all like that. There's not a sense of entitlement. My thing with Moyes is I really appreciate the positive things that he's managed to contribute for us in years gone by. We all know what those things are. I think he is limited. He has his style, which we all know what it is, and he has his way of doing things, and he's quite stubborn with that. And that can be a positive thing and a negative thing. And I think we've seen both sides of that. I think going forward, if I had like an ideal situation of how to sum up how I would like things to be when it comes to Moyes, I'd like him to be able to kind of like fall on his sword at the end of the season and be like, do you know what? I'm out. I'm leaving. I'm leaving on my own terms. I've done 4 years or however long it's been, and I'm moving on. And then we kind of move on to someone else. I don't want it to be a situation where, because things get whipped up in the media for a number of reasons, there's always like some sort of spin that gets put on stuff, and it makes us look a bit muggy. Do you know what I mean? I don't
Yeah.
want it to be a thing where it's like, oh, this has happened, whatever. I just want it to be a thing where he goes. And I think, to be honest with you, we're in a situation where I do think it is time for a change.
Mm.
I do have that thought as well of like, be careful what you wish for. Do you know what I mean? Because I don't tend to speak ill of Moyes, but at the same time, I do wholeheartedly agree with the people that are not really Moyes fans. I get it. I get everything. I get everything. It's basically being in a position to put those points across constructively. Because when you talk to people who are not West Ham fans, they only
Yeah.
see the headlines. They just see the way where we finished in the league, and they don't know the behind the scenes. But it's being able to articulate that stuff to people in order for them to really get it, because it is very similar to like a Gareth Southgate or a Roy Hodgson, where
Mm.
Gareth Southgate's got a really good squad. He's arguably got the best squad in world football, and he is someone as well that plays with the handbrake up. So a lot of people would prefer him to be a lot more attacking with what he's got at his disposal, but he's safety first. And Moyes is very similar. So for people that don't understand, it's kind of like that. It's kind of Marmite. It kind of divides. And what I think's happened, particularly this season, is the Moyes in and out debate was probably a 60-40 60-40 against, with people saying out. It's probably more social media based, because there's
Yeah.
so many people that don't factor in the conversation. But now it kind of went to 50-50, and now it's probably tipping to more Moyes out. And I think yesterday was a visual demonstration of that. It was incredible, James. I mean, if you watched it on the telly, so you had the
Yeah.
benefits of seeing people walking over the bridge, but actually being
Yes.
there and seeing people empty and not come back and see those white seats, it was amazing, mate. I'm telling you,
Pa-
it's nuts. It was nuts.
it was it, it was painful to see, mate. If I'm being honest, like, even think about it now. Like, listen, I don't go to West Ham. I haven't been West Ham in 8 years, and I won't go until Sullivan is gone. Yeah, because that's my thoughts on David Sullivan. The problem is I just don't trust Sullivan, Brian. If I'm being truthfully honest, because it wouldn't surprise me if we go and get rid of Moyes and we go and get in a Steve Cooper or someone like that. Now, I think with ambition, it starts at the top of the mountain. Yeah, if you've got an ambitious owner, that filters down into like the manager and then the players. If you've got an ambitious team, then anything can be possible. But when it comes to sort of Moyes, I think it's slowly fading and dying, like our famous song goes, mate. Do you know what I mean? It's fading
Yeah.
away. Do you know what I'm saying? And it's painful to see. Like, you would not think that 7 months ago, 8 months ago, we won a trophy and we had our best moment in my lifetime of 37 years. Do you know what I'm saying? And now I'm looking at it and I'm just seeing the fan base are at each other's throats. Um, over a manager that is dividing, is the most divisive manager that I've ever come across. I know Allardyce was a bit of a divisive figure, but this goes way beyond anything like that. And when I look at it right now, I think a change of manager might be the right move. But is it, for me? Are we going to go with a sideways step and go with someone like a Locatelli, or Graham Potter gets mentioned now? Is Graham Potter the right man for West Ham, or should West Ham be going up to the next level, like, and i.e. trying to bring someone to the club? And someone said this to me, funny enough, today, before I let you sort of land. Yeah, they said, when was the last time we had a manager at the club that other clubs would have loved to have had? I can't remember one really, mate, if I'm being honest. Like, in all
Mm,
the lifetime that
mm,
I've been supporting West Ham, since following West Ham since 1995, 96 season, I don't remember a manager
mm.
that I look at and go, wow, that's the manager. Like, other clubs would love to have that man
Yeah.
at their club. Do you know what I'm saying? So I'll let you land, Brian. Go on, mate.
Yeah. Yeah, no, that's actually a good point. I never thought of it like that. But also what you said before, James, in terms of not knowing what the future holds, like 12 months. Because if you, in some respects, some people would say the Moyes thing, we've missed the boat in that, in terms of having a change, because there was a lot of transition at the end of the season with regards to bringing in Stighton. We also were fortunate enough to bring in some very accomplished, good replacements for Declan Rice. So therefore, we were in quite a nice position. And then to top that off, we got off to a really good start. So now, with how things have been, but more importantly, how things potentially could go, we're then now looking at a situation come the end of the season where all of those things could be looking for a way out. Stighton, some of those
Yeah.
new players that we've signed, some of the players from last transfer window looking for a way out. So it's almost reset, because when Moyes come in, if the one thing we can say first time around is, on a positive that probably doesn't get talked about that much, is the two things he probably did was got the fitness levels up of the team, because the fitness levels were atrocious,
Agree.
and he got everyone running more, and then he got everyone a bit more organized, and then a bit later on down the line, I think one of the things he probably contributed was the team camaraderie. I would say probably the sort of Lingard era, the year before that and the year after that, the vibes in the team, you could see from all the promotional stuff, was really high, and it looked like it was a good bunch. So those things, but I think now we're sort of taking we're taking a step back. We're taking a step back, and I think the problem is someone coming in. I think the best time, in my opinion, regardless of how this season goes, even if we do like really, really bad and we sort of slope down to sort of like 15th, that kind of position, you know what I mean? Whatever happens, I don't think there's nothing to gain from changing the manager during the season. I think it's got to be close season. It's got to be at the end of the season. But what needs to be done is there needs to be a bit of a strategic plan in terms of who that person is. But like you said, it's that situation, isn't it, where you're just getting another man in that position, but the people above are going to be the same, so therefore we're potentially going to have the same situation. You know what, I with the Sullivan situation as well, James, I feel the expiry date is coming up with that too, to be honest with you.
Yeah.
I can't see them being around within the next 3 years, 2 3 years. I can see them selling up. But from a manager perspective, I just think we need to kind of ride it out now, and hold whatever we take, and just,
I
just
agree.
hope
It's
just
hard.
hope when and Antonio and Paqueta come back, that they're able to kind of like just bring things up a little bit, and we kind of win those games that we should be winning.
Yeah, I hear you, Brian. I really do, mate. To round this up, Brian, because I do really appreciate you coming on, mate. I needed someone calm and composed today, and you was the guy. Where will we finish this year? And how do you see this sort of playing out towards the back end of the season? Because the fear is now, for me personally, this is only going to intensify every game. Every time West Ham don't get a result or don't get a positive performance or don't do anything really, if I'm being honest, yeah, I just think it's just going to go up, intensify even more and more. For me personally, before I sort of let you sort of land on it, there has to be clarity for me now. Like there has to be some sort of plan to say, right, and we're not going to offer David Moyes a contract, and we're going to discuss it at the end of the season and then leave it at that. Don't like you've got the media coming out saying they're going to offer him a new deal, then they're saying they're not going to offer him a new deal because of recent results. We just don't know where we're going at the minute. Do you know what I mean? Right? So, what you saying, Brian, to round it up?
I think in terms of where do I think we'll finish first and foremost, I think if things kind of continue in the same trajectory, I think we're looking at sort of like 11th place. And that's because if you look at teams like Newcastle, Brighton, Wolves, um, these are teams that are picking up points. Chelsea are kind of picking up points as well. So even though there's probably about a 5 point or so gap between us, that can change. So if you take those teams into consideration, it means we're sort of languishing around about 11th, mid-table, 11th, 12th. If we manage to kind of get some stability, then hopefully we finish in the top half of the table, which on reflection, if we go back to the beginning of the season, I probably would have taken it at the beginning of the season. With regards to the getting clarity, I do agree wholeheartedly with you. I think a lot of the media outlets and even us in terms of content creators have based on the information we're getting, we've contributed to that whole contract thing. I don't know, man. I have a bit of a left field view with the whole contract thing in comparison to everyone else. I kind of think it's smoke and mirrors a little bit. I, I've I was always of the view prior to the news coming out last week that I was always of the view that Moyes won't get in a contract, and I know news has since come out suggesting that otherwise. But for some reason, I just got a feeling that um, people were saying stuff to kind of fit their narrative, and I include Moyes in that. I remember when he came out in that interview on TNT, sort of saying, "Yeah, conversation, all that." I think all that was a load of nonsense. I don't believe that whatsoever. But I think what that did is whip up stuff, and it's created all these sort of mind games with all the players involved, probably including Tim Stein wanting some clarity on what's happening for him, because I'm sure a lot of that stuff will affect his future too, in terms of what he's been told and what the future holds for him.
Mm.
So I'm slightly different to you. I agree with the clarity side of things, but I almost don't want there to be any talks about the contract. I just want that to die off death, and no one mentions whether he's staying or going or anything like that until the end of the season. And then there's other things that we kind of focused on as a fan base and everything else. I don't want no attention to be on that at all, because it's putting more heat and tension on everything, I feel. Whereas I just that will play out. Like what will be with that will be, because it's damn you do, damn you don't. If the club come out and say they're backing him, it's gonna go crazy. Yeah. If they
Mm.
come out and say he ain't getting a contract, then that's gonna have an impact on potentially Moyes and the attitude of the players. So it's like it's damn you do, damn you don't kind of thing. Do you know what I mean? So I just don't want no
I
talk about it personally.
I understand what you're saying. Don't get me wrong, I really do. But if Sullivan comes out and offers Moyes a contract at the end of the season, and he accepts it, it just makes no sense to me why you just didn't offer him a contract last year. Then, if that's the idea that you're going down, that's the motion that people are going down. Yeah, why are you letting the geezer roll
Yeah,
his contract down to offer him a new one? Do you know what I'm saying? If he doesn't offer him a contract,
exactly.
do you know what I'm saying? And he sort of goes, you know what? He's done his time. We're gonna part ways. Then you can rate it, but I can't rate it if he's just going to offer him a new contract. He's just rolled it down. We've all had a go at each other for last year. That's the fear with me. I understand what people say about Stein. I just see a comment there from Ryan, yeah, saying about Stein will pick the next manager. But I just don't believe it, mate. I think for me that proved it in the January window. For me, when Sullivan cut all sort of links with Osmond, yeah, Steidon wanted him, Moyes wanted him, Noble wanted him, everyone wanted him, but Sullivan said no. That to me says if he can do that with players, he can do that with a manager. Like, and it's my attitude is Steidon can go out and find any manager on this planet of ours. Yeah, it's whether or not Sullivan would accept the manager that Steidon was going to give him. Do you know what I mean? And for me, I just don't know. I really don't. I'm a bit nervous about it in regards of the future, really, because the way like the current future right now, I can only see us like crashing and burning. Really, if I'm being honest, I've not seen anything in the last 5 games to warrant us looking like we're going to win a game anytime soon. Do you know what I'm saying? So yeah, it's a bit of a concern.
Exactly.
Before I let you go, what did you make of the January window for you, Brian? Obviously, Calvin Phillips come in, and then 4 players out. Be interesting to hear what you think, mate.
Yeah, I was asked this question by Nikki last week. At the stage where it wasn't closed, but it was like on the verge of closing, and I then rated it a 5. I on reflection now, because we since had movement with both Ben Rama and Fornells, I got to rate it like literally a -2. It was terrible. It was terrible just due to the fact that we put ourselves in a situation where the squad is now not only the lightest in the league, but it's the oldest in the league. Go figure. Do you know what I mean? So
Yeah.
it don't make sense. So like, if we were able to bring in 1 or 2, even if they were deemed squad players, but they could do a job, particularly on the left hand side, or up top or something, then yeah, that I would have been okay with it. The whole thing with Calvin Phillips as well, again, that divided some opinion as well. But I was for it, man. I thought that was I thought it was something that worked or could work for all parties. I don't feel he should have started straight away. Like, he got thrown in. The difference between, say, like him and Lingard was still playing, wasn't he, at the time of him coming to us? So he was getting a little bit more game time than Calvin Phillips was. So the guy is gonna be rusty, and so I'm hoping he comes good. But at the moment, it's like he's probably thinking, "What the hell have I done?" And we're probably thinking the same with getting him in. But hopefully that comes to fruition. Moyes really needs to look at the prospect of either changing the system to accompany the players that we have, which he did try to do against Bournemouth, and it didn't work. But there is a need to kind of rethink, and also not trying to fit everyone in from a midfield perspective. Like, if some of your top boys have to sit out, then let them sit out. It gives us bench options. But I think we need to kind of maybe reconsider the system in order to adapt with the personnel we now have.
Yeah, I agree, mate. I really, really do. Brian, thank you very much, mate, for coming on. I really do appreciate it, as always. Shout out your social media links before we go, mate.
Yeah, no worries, man. I don't really do socials too much, but I am on Instagram. You can find me on Brian West Ham fan underscore or something like that. West Ham fan underscore Brian, I think it is. Yeah. That's the only space I do at the moment. So do previews and predictions and that kind of stuff. So yeah, go and check it out.
No worries at all. That's been Brian. Also check him out on West Ham Fan TV and the boys over there, Nicky and the gang. Smash a like on the video, subscribe to E20 Zone TV, and hit the notification bell and all that. It's a dark day at West Ham at present, really. Like, it really is. And it's a really sort of dull and depressing time. But as I always say, I've got to try and keep the faith. But it's very, very hard at the minute to keep the faith currently right now. But yeah, listen, it is what it is, and we move on. I had a load of Arsenal fans in me DMs. Thank you very much for that, West Ham. No, I've got to put up with that. But it is what it is. I'll be back in the week to do more of this, and I will see you again in the next one. But as I always say, keep the faith, because we just never know what's going to happen with West Ham. All the best.